This is one of a few videos I'll do on this 2010 Triumph Bonneville. In this particular video, I'm gonna talk about the 3-inch extended swing arm. I'm not gonna talk you through every little step, but I'm gonna give you a couple tips that I hope will help you if this is something you decide to do for yourself. This particular bike has a 3-inch extended swing arm, and it's been lowered 2 inches front and back. The lowering was accomplished by progressive springs in the front, and in the rear, the lowering occurs because of the length of the shocks. Just automatically, lifts the tire, brings the tire closer to the back seat, and that creates the lowering effect of 2 inches. I think that it actually worked out. I would not recommend more than 3 inches. I just don't think it would be a good ride. This ride's pretty decent. I've ridden it a little bit, no complaints. I like it. Seems to be just fine, but I wouldn't go longer. One of the benefits of what I ended up here, which was just by random chance because I didn't really know what I was doing, is that I was able to use a Thruxton Scrambler shock and just like your stock shock, and the length was just right. No complaints. Everything was fine. Like, it was actually the right length for this particular project. I think I just lucked out. Like, I didn't really plan it that way. I wasn't sure how long of a shock I'd need, but it turns out that if you use a Thruxton Scrambler shock, it's about the perfect length for a 3-inch extension like this when you're doing a 2-inch lowering. Now, you'll notice I have these SDX blackline Ohlins shocks on here, and the reason I wanted to go with those is because I was able to order them from AJ Cycles in New York with a stiffer spring, and that stiffer spring will ensure that I don't ever bottom out. Whether even if I do 2-up riding, I'm really not worried I'm going to bottom out with those shocks. And the ride is amazing, so no complaints, much better than stock. So it was a big purchase, but it was worth it just to have that confidence that I'll never bottom out with that. If I wanted to, though, I think I could have used the stock Triumph Thruxton Scrambler shocks, and it would have been okay. These shocks, I will say, they give you an option to just extend them just a little bit. You can see the threads down there, but that really doesn't lengthen them that much. But I went ahead and extended them just a little bit longer anyways than you would find on your stock Triumph shocks, Triumph Scrambler Thruxton shocks. While I was at it, of course, I replaced the chain in the sprocket. I mean, I had to replace the chain anyway, so it made sense to do it all at once. Talking through this swing arm and how I approached it, I found Framecrafters in Illinois. I had a great experience working with them. That's who I decided to have them fabricate the extended swing arm. They did it for about $500, and for that price, they left the welds on. They didn't clean up the welds. They just, that was the price to have them do it. And I think they might have charged me for shipping, but it was around that price. So a real good deal, no complaints. They did great work. What I did is I went on eBay and found 2 different swing arms and had them sent directly to Framecrafters. This swing arm you see here was the original swing arm that was on the bike. So I didn't take off my swing arm and send it to them. Instead, I just went on eBay and found 2 new ones and sent it to them. They wanted 2 swing arms to make one, 2 donor swing arms. You can find a swing arm for $30 in eBay, and that's with shipping, so they're really affordable. I found one that was like that $30 swing arm, on eBay, which I used for the back half. They must have cut it right about here, I would imagine, and they used that for the back half. And then for the front half, they must have cut it a little bit long. I don't know where they cut it exactly, but probably right here or something. But they essentially were able to accomplish the 3-inch extension by doing it that way, without having to do double weld. They were able, I think if I recall, there was only 1 weld, which was easier for them and meant less cleanup for me, and probably a much stronger, fewer welds. Just seems like it's a better deal. I paid about $100 for the front swing arm. I just waited until I found a really nice one because I found one that was almost new and it had perfect bushings in the front. That way I could avoid, finding one with 15,000 miles that needed new bushings in the front. Worth just taking my time and spending a little bit more money on eBay. And of course, that's the one that they used for the front, the nicer one, and then for the back, it was still a decent swing arm, no problems with it. They used as the donor for the back, or I said that the wrong way. They kept the nice one for the front, and then they used the other one for the back. They sent it to me, and I had to clean up the weld, so I took a grinder and I ground down the big welds. They were, you know, the welds were really high quality. I could tell as I ground them down, was able to get it nice and smooth. After that, I went to a body shop and I picked up some high quality body filler, and I used a nice thin shim coat of body filler. I sanded it down following the instructions I found on the web, using 1000 grit, 600 grit, whatever they told me to do, to make it perfect, you know, super smooth. I kept it, you know, I didn't take all the paint off. I really kept, you know, they only removed the paint where they did the weld, so I kept it pretty focused in that area. After that, I went back to the body shop and bought 2 cans of spray paint. One was a primer and the other one was a top coat, and these were $25 a can. There's a type of 2-stage paint you can get in a spray can. It's really expensive, but it dries really hard, and so that's what I used. When I painted it, of course, I did the high build primer, did a couple of different coats, sanded it all down following the instructions I found on the internet, so that it came out perfectly smooth. You would never even know there was a weld there. And then when it came time to paint it with that top coat, I painted, if you can imagine, from about here down, and then I left the stock paint here up. And because I used a satin black paint, you couldn't tell the difference between the bottom and the front. I mean, it looked, you know, perfect. And so then I, of course, you know, followed the instructions, did the top coat with the black paint, $50 in spray paint later. I have a really hard painted swing arm that looks just like stock. And so that's how I got to that right there. So I think I've covered everything I wanted to share with you. Nothing really, no big surprises. The kickstand still works okay. Like it doesn't, you know, it's still, everything still behaves like it should. Bike sits a little bit lower, but you know, like I said, it rides really good. No complaints. I don't know, like here, you're getting a look at it. I've been all told, maybe it was $700 to do this job the way I just described it. Plus the shocks, oh my gosh, those were expensive. If I had just gone with the stock Thruxton, you know, Scrambler shocks, you know, the pair I found on eBay, that would have been about maybe $700. But with this job here, it ended up being like $1,700. But assume you went with the stock Thruxton shocks, you're looking at, you know, maybe being able to do this for $700 or so. So ask yourself if that look is worth it to you. And if it is, it's a very doable project. Like all of this was easy to do. Once I'm not a mechanic, so once I got the rear wheel on, I did it right as best I could, made sure I followed the instructions to measure the chain. I'm not gonna lie, I rolled this up onto a trailer, and I brought it into my local Triumph of Seattle dealership, and I had the service department just go over it. I mean, I don't think they charged me hardly anything. They just made sure everything was right. Because, you know, even though I'm someone who will follow a manual, I'll listen to videos, I'll do all that kind of stuff, I'm kind of not sure I knew exactly what I was doing, so I just wanted them to double check everything, which they did. I had left the chain a little bit too tight, and they caught that for me and adjusted the chain to make sure it was right. Even though I followed all the instructions, tried to do everything right, I still ended up making the chain just a little too tight, and they were nice enough to kind of just come in behind me. So for the cost of a trailer rental, it was just a nice step to make sure everything was just spot on right. And then I drove it back from the dealership, drove great, no problems, everything is perfect. So if that's something you're into, I hope this helps you.